The purpose of this demo is to show how Arcserve UDP can be used to protect servers in the cloud to a cloud-based recovery point server, which can then be synced back to an on-premise recovery point server to provide DR from the cloud back to VMware or Hyper-V. In my AWS console, I have 4 instances running for my test client, Customer 1. I have a domain controller, a SQL server, and a web server. I also have a UDP recovery point server. In my UDP console running on the RPS server, I have defined a backup plan for the AWS VMs. The plan actions are to perform an incremental backup and then replicate the backup to a recovery point server back in my data center running on VMware. I'm going to initiate a manual backup, which will only take a few seconds to complete. We see spinning wheels as the backup progresses, and we can view the status of the backup. Note that the overall data reduction percentage due to compression and deduplication is 92.28%. Once the individual backup jobs complete, the RPS server will replicate only unique data to the on-premise RPS server. You can see that this backup task, we only need to transmit 23 megs of data for the replication of this full recovery point. This is my on-premise RPS server, and it has a reciprocal plan configured. This plan's actions are to receive data from the AWS RPS and create or update a virtual standby server on VMware. Once the recovery point data has been synced from AWS, the virtual standby process begins. This typically takes a few minutes, even for small changes in content. We can view the virtual standby in the VMware console, however we should use the UDP console to power them on when needed. As we are typically protecting servers from a remote network, it's necessary to configure the network settings for the virtual standby servers. This can be done in advance of needing to start the VMs. We can choose the virtual network card type, the virtual network to connect to, the IP address, subnet, gateway and DNS servers. I'll use the console to stand by the VM and am presented with up to 31 previous recovery points. I'll choose the latest recovery point as we've just completed syncing this recovery point, and then select power on. In the VMware console, we can see the VM boot up and we can connect to the console. So I'm just going to log into the VMware virtual machine, and notice we can see the AWS configuration on the desktop and also some of the EC2 icons.